Every morning holds the silent potential to transform your life, yet most people treat it as nothing more than the start of another ordinary day. The truth is, mornings are far more powerful than we imagine. The way you begin your day is like writing the opening chapter of a book you are about to live. If you write it with chaos, distraction, and negativity, the rest of the chapters often mirror that tone. But if you write it with clarity, discipline, and strength, then the story of your day unfolds in the direction of growth and empowerment. That is why mornings shape your destiny, because the first decisions you make when the world is quiet are the seeds that bloom into your habits, your mindset, and ultimately, your entire life. Think about it. When the alarm rings, you are given a choice. Do you hit snooze and tell yourself you'll start later, or do you rise immediately, teaching your mind that discipline matters more than comfort? That single choice seems small, but it is not. It is a declaration of how you are going to handle the challenges ahead. Snoozing once may not ruin your life, but it builds a pattern of postponement. Waking up with determination does not make you successful in one moment, but it sets a rhythm of action and control that ripples into every other area of your day. What feels like a minor decision becomes a massive influence on the kind of person you are becoming. Mornings are when your mind is most open, most unshaped by the distractions of the world. Before messages arrive, before the noise of responsibilities fills the air, you are in a space where you can decide how to prime yourself for greatness or failure. If you spend that time scrolling through your phone, comparing your life to others, or consuming negativity, you are feeding your mind with poison before the day even begins. But if you dedicate those minutes to reflection, movement, gratitude, and clarity, you are feeding your soul with strength. What you consume in those early hours, whether it is food, media, or thoughts, will dictate the quality of your choices throughout the day. People often underestimate the power of rituals. A small morning ritual may look insignificant, yet it reprograms the brain. Imagine starting your day with a 5-minute practice of gratitude. Every morning, as the sun rises, you write down 3 things you are thankful for. That habit shifts your brain from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to appreciation. Now contrast that with a morning where you rush out of bed, complain about being tired, and instantly dive into tasks you resent. Which life do you think grows stronger? The destiny of each person is hidden in those choices, repeated silently every morning until they become a lifestyle. Discipline in the morning is the mother of self-control in life. If you can master the art of rising when it's easier to stay asleep, if you can choose focus over distraction, and if you can prioritize intentional growth over meaningless habits, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses. That victory carries forward. The person who begins the day with discipline is far more likely to eat with discipline, work with discipline, and speak with discipline. Success is not built by random chance. It is constructed brick by brick, and your mornings are the first bricks laid each day. A weak foundation cannot hold a strong life, but a disciplined foundation makes everything else possible. Consider the difference between 2 individuals. One wakes up late, rushes out the door, grabs something unhealthy to eat, and spends the commute dreading the day ahead. The other rises earlier than needed, takes time to breathe deeply, moves their body, reads or writes something uplifting, and enters the day with clarity of purpose. Both individuals face challenges, stress, and unexpected obstacles, but their capacity to handle those obstacles is worlds apart. The one who began with chaos remains in chaos. The one who began with intention carries stability, focus, and resilience. This is not luck. This is the compounding power of mornings. Mornings also reveal your relationship with time. Many say they do not have time to improve their lives, yet they spend the first precious hour of the day on distractions. The truth is not that they lack time, but that they lack priority. Time is most abundant when the day begins, but many choose to waste it on habits that drain instead of habits that build. When you recognize that mornings are your most powerful resource, you stop wasting them and start designing them. You decide how to use that sacred window, to meditate, to plan, to exercise, to read, or to take meaningful steps toward your goals. Even 10 minutes invested wisely in the morning can compound into a transformation across months and years. Habits form in the silence of small actions. If you wake up each day and choose one empowering act, writing, running, journaling, affirming, you are reprogramming your identity. Every morning tells your subconscious who you are. If you begin your day with weakness, your mind accepts weakness as truth. If you begin your day with strength, your mind embraces strength as reality. This is why so many high achievers protect their mornings. They know that destiny is not built in dramatic events, but in repeated choices that align with who they want to become. Even your emotional state is sculpted in the morning. Imagine starting your day by revisiting your failures, your worries, and your fears. Your body responds with stress, your heart carries anxiety, and your decisions are clouded with negativity. But if instead you start your day by breathing deeply, visualizing success, and affirming your worth, your body responds with confidence, your heart carries calm, and your decisions are fueled by courage. The energy you set in the morning does not stay in the morning. It travels with you into every interaction, every decision, and every challenge. This is why so many people who fail to break bad habits never look at the root, the way they start their day. They focus on willpower throughout the day, trying to resist temptations and distractions, but by the time those challenges appear, their mind is already drained. Willpower is strongest in the morning, when the brain is fresh. If you use that strength to make empowering choices at the start, you are far more likely to win the battles later. Bad habits are not destroyed in the heat of temptation, but in the preparation before temptation arises. If you prepare your mind each morning, you create a shield that protects you against the very habits that used to control you. Your destiny is nothing more than the accumulation of daily decisions, and every day, the first decisions are made when you rise from your bed. That is why mornings are sacred, why they must be treated with reverence. When you treat your mornings casually, you treat your life casually. But when you treat your mornings with purpose, you treat your life with purpose. If you want to know what your future looks like, look at your mornings. They are the clearest mirror of where your life is heading. What separates those who remain trapped in cycles of mediocrity from those who rise into greatness is not intelligence, luck, or opportunity. It is discipline, repeated daily, beginning each morning. Each sunrise is life's way of telling you, here is another chance to write your story differently. Whether you embrace that chance or waste it is entirely in your control. When you wake with purpose, when you use the first hour of your day to set intention, to fuel your mind and body, and to align with your goals, you begin to destroy the old patterns that held you back. You do not need to fight bad habits directly. You need to starve them by feeding better habits, and the best time to do that is in the morning. The morning is not simply the start of the day, it is the foundation of your destiny. Each choice you make upon waking is a stroke of paint on the canvas of your life. With discipline, gratitude, focus, and intention, you design a masterpiece. With distraction, laziness, and autopilot, you leave behind a mess. The power lies not in dramatic overnight change, but in the small, consistent decisions you make at dawn. Master your mornings, and you will master your future. Bad habits are some of the strongest chains a person can carry, but what most people don't realize is that those chains are not broken by force. They are replaced. The human brain is designed in such a way that it craves routine, it thrives on patterns, and it looks for repetition as a form of comfort. When a behavior is repeated long enough, it becomes automatic, and that automatic loop becomes what we call a habit. Many try to destroy their bad habits by simply resisting them, by saying, I will stop doing this, or I won't give in again. Yet resistance alone rarely works because willpower is finite. Willpower is like a muscle. It gets tired, and the more you try to fight against something you are used to doing, the more drained you feel. That is why most people relapse into the very patterns they swore they would abandon. The secret is not resistance, but replacement. You cannot just rip out a habit and leave an empty space. You must fill that space with something better, something that serves your growth instead of your destruction. Every morning is the perfect battlefield for this replacement to begin. Why? Because mornings carry the most clarity and the least distraction. When the day has not yet flooded your mind with stress, emails, demands, or negativity, you have the chance to program yourself with intentional actions. If you begin with the same old routines, checking your phone, rushing without purpose, feeding your body with unhealthy choices, then you are reinforcing your old patterns. But if you deliberately insert new rituals, like gratitude journaling, exercise, meditation, affirmations, or simply a few minutes of silence, you are rewiring your mind to follow a different path. The brain does not know the difference between good habits and bad ones. It only knows what is repeated. Your mornings decide which patterns you are strengthening. Take, for example, the habit of procrastination. Procrastination is not merely about being lazy, it is about conditioning your brain to delay discomfort. When you wake up and your first choice is to check your phone instead of focusing on a meaningful task, you are telling your mind that delay is acceptable, that postponement is easier than discipline. The more you do this, the stronger the loop becomes. Now imagine instead that the very first thing you do each morning is to take a small but significant step toward a goal. It could be writing 1 page, doing 10 push-ups, practicing 5 minutes of meditation, or reading a chapter of a book that builds you. That single action sends a message to your brain: discipline comes first. Over time, the habit of procrastination weakens not because you fought it, but because you replaced it with the habit of immediate action. The same applies to unhealthy emotional habits. Complaining, for instance, is a deeply ingrained pattern in many lives. A person wakes up, thinks about everything that is wrong, and speaks it into existence before the day has even started. That habit becomes part of their identity. They begin to see themselves as victims of circumstances, helpless against the world. Fighting this habit directly by trying to stop complaining rarely works, but replacing it with the habit of gratitude changes everything. Imagine waking up and writing down 3 things you are grateful for before you allow a single complaint to leave your lips. The brain begins to rewire itself, looking for the positive, scanning the environment for blessings instead of problems. Slowly, the complaining habit fades, not because it was forced out, but because it was starved while gratitude was fed. Morning is where you plant these seeds of replacement. Every action you take during that first hour is like setting the stage for the entire day. If you replace aimless scrolling with intentional journaling, you build clarity. If you replace rushing with mindful breathing, you build peace. If you replace self-doubt with affirmations, you build confidence. And once these new habits take root, they spread into the rest of your day. The person who practices discipline in the morning is more likely to stay disciplined at work, in relationships, in diet, and in fitness. The one who gives in to distractions early finds themselves giving in all day long. Replacing bad habits also requires identity shift. People often say, "I am trying to quit smoking," "I am trying to stop being lazy," or "I am trying to eat better." But as long as they see themselves as someone fighting a bad habit, the bad habit still defines them. Replacement begins when you change how you see yourself. If you say, "I am a healthy person, and this is how a healthy person acts," or "I am a disciplined person, and this is what discipline looks like," you are replacing the old identity with a new one. Morning rituals are powerful because they reinforce this identity daily. The act of getting up early, making your bed, drinking water, or going for a run may look small, but it speaks loudly to your subconscious: this is who I am. And the more you reinforce that identity, the less space there is for your old destructive self. It is also important to understand that replacement does not happen overnight. A bad habit that was built over years will not disappear in a day. That is why mornings are so critical. They give you a daily opportunity to chip away at the old and construct the new. Each sunrise is a reset button. Each morning is a rehearsal for the life you are building. If you slip one day, you have the chance to begin again the next. Consistency, not perfection, is what destroys bad habits. The replacement becomes stronger the longer it is practiced, until one day, the bad habit no longer has power over you. There is also a psychological advantage to mornings. Your willpower is highest. Studies have shown that self-control works like a battery. As the day goes on, decisions, stress, and temptations drain it. That is why it is much harder to resist a bad habit in the evening, when your energy is gone, than it is in the morning, when your mind is fresh. Using that fresh mental energy to install a new habit gives you the greatest chance of success. If you wait until the evening to start changing, you are already fighting an uphill battle against a drained mind. Replacing habits in the morning is like fighting with the wind at your back instead of against your face. Another key to replacement is environment. Habits do not exist in isolation. They are triggered by cues. For example, if you keep your phone by your bed, the cue when you wake up is to grab it and scroll. If you replace that cue with a journal or a book placed next to your bed, the environment nudges you toward a different choice. Over time, the new habit becomes automatic. Mornings are the perfect time to adjust your environment because you control the setup before the distractions of the day hit you. By designing your space intentionally, keeping water ready, setting workout clothes aside, preparing a quiet spot for reflection. You make the replacement of bad habits almost effortless. The most inspiring truth about replacement is that it compounds. A single morning practice may seem small, but when it is repeated daily, it creates massive transformation. Drinking water instead of coffee first thing may seem minor, but it builds health. Writing 3 positive affirmations may take only minutes, but it builds resilience. Reading 10 pages a day may not feel like much, but it builds knowledge. The compound effect of replacing small bad habits with small good ones in the morning is the shaping of a new life. Over months and years, the difference becomes extraordinary. People often look for dramatic strategies to change their lives, but the answer lies in simple, consistent replacements. You do not need to overhaul everything overnight. You simply need to identify one bad morning habit and replace it with one better one. Over time, add more, replace snoozing with stretching, replace scrolling with journaling, replace complaining with gratitude, replace chaos with planning. Each replacement is a victory, and these victories stack upon one another until they form a new identity, a new lifestyle, and a new destiny. Your mornings are not just the beginning of the day. They are the arena where the battle between your old self and your new self takes place. Each action you take is a choice of which side wins. Bad habits will always whisper, offering comfort and ease. But if you stand firm and replace them with actions that empower, you slowly silence that voice. Eventually, the new habits become so ingrained that you no longer have to fight. They become who you are. This is the beauty of replacement. It transforms effort into automation. What once felt like a struggle becomes natural, and what once held you captive becomes nothing more than a memory. The smallest choices a person makes each morning often appear insignificant, but they are the building blocks of a much larger life. It is not the grand decisions or once-in-a lifetime opportunities that shape the majority of someone's destiny, but rather the quiet, consistent decisions repeated day after day. Success is never built overnight. It is crafted through the discipline of small, intentional acts, and the morning provides the purest opportunity to make those acts count. The power of small morning choices is underestimated because they rarely produce immediate, dramatic results. Yet over time, they accumulate into a force that can destroy destructive patterns and construct an extraordinary life. Think about the act of drinking a glass of water upon waking. It seems like nothing, a few seconds, a simple gesture. But that small choice signals to the body that it is cared for, nourished, and prepared. Over time, it strengthens health, increases energy, and creates a sense of discipline. Compare that to the choice of reaching for sugary drinks or skipping hydration altogether. That too seems small, but it slowly contributes to fatigue, poor focus, and weakened willpower. One path appears harmless, the other appears harmless, but each path diverges further and further apart with repetition. This is the essence of small choices creating a bigger life. The morning is when these choices matter most because they are amplified by timing. Early decisions act like dominoes, they tip over into the rest of the day. Begin with laziness, and laziness spreads. Begin with clarity, and clarity spreads. A person who wakes and immediately chooses to practice gratitude does not just feel thankful in that moment. They carry a mindset of appreciation into their work, their relationships, and their challenges. A person who wakes and begins the day with negativity or distraction carries that same heaviness forward. The first choice of the day shapes the energy of the next 100 choices. It is often said that discipline is freedom, but what most fail to realize is that discipline is practiced not in the big battles of life, but in the small ones, waking on time instead of snoozing, writing down goals instead of scrolling, moving the body instead of staying still, speaking words of encouragement instead of words of defeat. Each choice is small enough to ignore, but powerful enough to transform. People look at successful individuals and assume their lives are built on extraordinary talent or luck. But in reality, those lives are built on ordinary choices, practiced consistently. The extraordinary grows out of the ordinary when it is repeated with intention. Consider how the habit of reading a few pages in the morning can alter a destiny. In one moment it feels small. It may take only 10 minutes, but over a year, that person has absorbed the wisdom of dozens of books. Their mind has been expanded, their perspective enriched, their vocabulary sharpened. Another person, in the same 10 minutes each morning, chooses to scroll endlessly on social media. After a year, their mind is cluttered with comparison, distraction, and noise. The difference between these two people is not intelligence, opportunity, or even effort. It is the choice of how they use their mornings. The brain also functions best in the morning. After rest, the mind is clear and receptive. This makes the early hours a golden time for planting seeds of thought that will grow throughout the day. If those seeds are doubts, distractions, or indulgences, they grow into a day filled with wasted potential. If those seeds are confidence, gratitude, and purpose, they grow into a day filled with strength. Small morning choices are powerful precisely because they are made in this fertile mental soil. Just as a farmer plants seeds when the soil is rich, so too should a person plant empowering habits when the mind is fresh. Momentum is another hidden factor in morning choices. Every action creates a direction. When the first action of the day is aligned with discipline, the person gains momentum toward more disciplined actions. Success is easier to continue when it has already begun. Conversely, when the first action is one of weakness, that weakness drags behind every subsequent decision. Momentum is like a current in a river. In the morning, you choose whether that current carries you toward progress or pulls you toward stagnation. Small actions, repeated with consistency, set the flow of that current. There is also a spiritual dimension to small morning choices. The silence of early hours provides a connection with oneself that is often drowned out during the day. Taking a few minutes to breathe deeply, reflect, or express gratitude may seem trivial, but it connects the individual to purpose and peace. That connection influences not only how they face challenges, but how they interact with others. A person grounded in gratitude and clarity spreads positivity. A person scattered and reactive spreads negativity. Once again, the small choice becomes a ripple that affects far more than one life. When it comes to destroying bad habits, small morning choices are the most practical weapons. A bad habit thrives on automatic behavior, doing what feels easy without thinking. But by inserting even one conscious, positive action in the morning, the cycle of automation is interrupted. For example, if someone wants to quit a habit of overeating at night, the battle is not fought in the evening when their willpower is drained. It is fought in the morning when they choose to prepare healthy meals, hydrate properly, and set an intention for discipline. By the time evening comes, their earlier choices have already weakened the bad habit's hold. Destructive patterns lose their grip not through dramatic resistance, but through quiet, consistent replacement. And the morning is the best time to begin that replacement. A common misconception is that success comes from giant leaps. People imagine one big breakthrough, one huge opportunity, or one massive effort. But the truth is less glamorous and more powerful. Success is the cumulative result of thousands of small, seemingly unimportant choices made daily. The morning routine is where those choices are most concentrated. A person may not be able to control everything that happens in their day, but they can control how it begins, and how it begins often dictates how it ends. There is also a psychological shift that occurs when small morning choices are honored. The individual begins to trust themselves. Trust is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. When you tell yourself you will rise at a certain time and you do, you are teaching yourself that your word matters. When you promise yourself you will write one page and you follow through, you prove that you are reliable. Over time, this builds unshakable confidence. Bad habits often thrive because people have broken promises to themselves so many times that they no longer believe in their own strength. Small morning choices restore that belief, one promise kept at a time. The ripple effect of these choices also extends into relationships and communities. A person who starts their morning with chaos tends to carry frustration into their interactions, spreading negativity like a contagion. A person who begins with peace and gratitude carries that energy into every room they enter, lifting others. The world may not notice the glass of water, the 5 minutes of silence, or the act of writing a goal in the morning journal, but it feels the effect. Small morning choices create bigger lives not only because they transform the individual, but because they transform the way that individual influences others. It is also important to recognize that perfection is not required. Missing a morning or failing to follow through does not erase progress. The power lies in returning, in recommitting to the practice the next day. This too is a small choice, a choice to not give up after failure. Over time, the act of returning builds resilience. teaching the person that setbacks are not endings, but opportunities to begin again. That resilience, practiced in the morning, becomes a strength that can be applied to every challenge in life. The science of habit formation supports this truth. Habits are built on cues, routines, and rewards. In the morning, cues are most controllable. If a journal is placed beside the bed, it cues reflection. If workout clothes are laid out, it cues movement. If a glass of water is prepared, it cues hydration. By designing the morning environment with intention, one can create automatic positive choices that build momentum. Each of these choices may take less than a minute, but their cumulative effect can reshape a destiny. Over years, the gap between those who honor small morning choices and those who neglect them becomes massive. One person rises with clarity, practices gratitude, feeds their mind with wisdom, and moves their body. Another rises late, feeds on distraction, and starts the day with stress. At first, the difference is invisible. After weeks, it is noticeable. After months, it is undeniable. After years, it is life-defining. The small choices that seemed irrelevant become the very foundation of success or failure. When viewed in this way, mornings are no longer ordinary. They are sacred. They are the stage upon which the future is rehearsed. They are the soil in which the seeds of greatness are planted. They are the proof that small, disciplined actions carry infinite weight. The smallest morning choice can destroy a bad habit, create momentum, build identity, and transform an entire life. And though each action is simple, the life they create is anything but. Greatness is never one giant leap away. It is always one small morning choice repeated until it becomes destiny.